Everybody, this is Perch. About, I don't know, whenever this video gets posted, some time ago, Joe and I did a video on the Linearverse. And man, we got a lot of dislikes for that video, more than usual. And I believe that the dislikes mainly sprung from people who thought that it wasn't a very good bit, because I got a decent amount of emails from people who said it was a terrible bit. And I know that at least one guy wrote in talking about how he apparently went on some other show, I don't know if it was stream or his own or whatever, and just trashed it as being stupid. Like this was not a funny joke. I want to know this show. Like, where is this show? Somebody point me to it. But the Linearverse is a real life thing, and I don't know. For what it's worth, I can't tell you the glee I had in doing that video, and Joe was just a champion in that one I played that for my wife later, and she was dying. Just because it was, especially toward the end, where it seems to break Joe a little bit. The whole concept seems to crack him, and he starts talking about Batman and the time travel devices. God, it was wonderful. But on the other hand, and I'm gonna have to bring this up in live streams and other things. I also appreciated the people who are going in the video trying to explain to Joe how James Bond works. We know it was sarcasm. It was that was the whole point. Is that people, you don't need to worry about these things. That people can get it. That the James Bond being portrayed by different actors is not that weird. There's not a lot of people out there wondering what's going on. But anyway, I love that video. I'm sorry that more people didn't, and that it seemed to confuse a lot of people. But hell, the concept itself is confusing. By the way, if you're listening to this now and you haven't heard, yes, the Linearverse is real. That was not a bit. that that was legitimate confusion, and it was just kind of fun. Anyway, okay. And by the way, it's like, why do you beat up on DC so much? I'm sorry. I don't know. The X-Men fans think I beat up on Marvel too much. So, I mean, you guys should get together and form a club, is all I'm saying. Throw Perch in a pit. That's what you should do. But, okay, the purpose of this video, though, is why does DC feel like they need to fix this stuff? And Marvel too, by the way. Let's not make it just DC. I mean, both of them have this mentality that timeline continuity is a problem. That it's very difficult for people to understand. That it causes a lot of consternation in fans. That in some cases, people actually don't know what to do, and it's harming new readership and everything else. And it's just a very, very complex problem. And I find that really weird, because more now than maybe at any point that I can remember over the last 40 years, nostalgia is cool. You're seeing a lot of shows and movies that are tapping into different time periods and different eras. And in many cases, they're horribly wrong in how they represent those time periods, but that doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going through True Detective season 3 right now, which I recommend, by the way. That's some good stuff. That is season 2 but season 3 is awesome. And it's juggling different timelines, different time periods, and it's cool. I don't find myself sitting there watching this season going, I don't understand what's this thing? They're walking into this little booth with a phone in it. I never heard of such a thing. I cannot relate. I won't watch this show. Nobody thinks that way. And I think the challenge is there's a premise. And I've heard this from Jordan White. I've heard it from Tom Brevoort. I've heard it from Dan Didio. I've heard it from, in many cases directly, that that this is a problem that has to be solved, that fans really struggle with the craziness of the fact that, Peter Parker looks like he's in his 20s or maybe early 30s. We're not quite sure. And he's been around since the 60s. How can he be how can he be in high school in the 60s? And then it's now 2021 and he's in his 20s or 30s. How can this possibly be? He should be an old man. And that fans really struggle with this. The one thing I will say is that the people I mentioned and other people within the comic companies, they do believe this is a real problem. They're not just making it up for crazy reasons. They really legitimately, in their heart, in their soul, believe that fans really struggle with this concept, and they just cannot understand why Peter Parker isn't older, why the Fantastic Four aren't dead, Why Franklin isn't, in his like 50. They can't understand it. And they almost, it's almost this kind of source. What I hear from them when I talk to people who hold this belief, it's almost this embarrassment. Like they feel like they're tricking their comic buying customer base somehow, and that they have to make up for it, or we really owe it to those customers to give a really good explanation, because none of this makes any sense, and we're pulling one over on them, and they're probably going to be mad at us for doing it. And there's this sense of like, we really are screwing this up, and if we don't fix this, then they're all going to leave. And so DC has had many crises where they reboot the universe and they change it. And if you're rebooting the universe and changing it up because you want to have a new jumping on point, a new number one, you want to shuffle up the characters, you want to have a different take on things, more power to you. I still believe that the idea that there is a multiverse with different Earths that was established very, very early. I mean, this was going on in the 70s, probably the 60s, where there was like an Earth 2, Earth 4, Earth 50. I mean, the Marvel Universe, you have the Earth 616 and all these other Earths. It doesn't matter. Comic fans will be okay. You don't have to call it Earth Prime or Earth 1 or Earth 0 or Earth, this is our Earth. And you don't have to do that because there are not superheroes in real life. I'm in my car right now. I'm at a stoplight. I'm looking around the sky. I do not see, Superman flying by. Captain Marvel is not hanging out at Target over there. There are no superheroes in this world. The characters are fictional. And because the characters are fictional, readers are perfectly willing to accept that they live on a different planet from ours. And what you call that different planet is pretty irrelevant, honestly. If you expect customers to be able to understand that he is called Captain America and he is also called Steve Rogers because he has a secret identity, but maybe it's not a secret identity, people know it. If your comic reader can figure out that simple concept, then you don't need to label the Earth he's on Earth 1 or Earth 0 or Earth P or Earth Omega or something that sounds like the first and only Earth. You can call it nothing if you want. You could call it the 616 reality. You could do whatever the hell you want. It does not matter. It does not matter because comic readers they get it. They're cool. They get that this is some reality where there's superheroes. It's not our Earth, so what you actually call it doesn't matter. In 30 years of running a comic shop, at no point has somebody come in and said, I cannot wrap my head around the Prime Marvel Universe being called the 616 reality. It should be called the number one reality because it's the number one. Nobody has ever said that. Has it? In the comments below, has anybody ever said this to you? Nobody cares. So this idea that we've got to somehow fix it is weird. I mean, I want to say Tom Brevoort, although this part doesn't really sound like Tom Brevoort to me, but who knows? They're at Marvel. There's been this. We can't call it the 616. It's way too confusing. It's not. Look, it's just not. Here's the way. Here you can explain it in one sentence. The Earth, the reality in Marvel Comics, is not our reality. It's a different one, and it's called the 616 reality. There's lots of other realities. Every now and then we get a peek at them. The end. There you go. People are satisfied with that answer. You don't need to make it more complicated than that. But nonetheless, DC has done various crises to quote-unquote clean up their continuity. It almost always seems to make it worse. Marvel went through Secret Wars where Jonathan Hickman was arguably going to do the same thing. And there was at least some mandate. I don't know if this is what Hickman had in mind or not. But there's some mandate of like, hey, we got to clean up all these other realities. We got the Ultimate Universe over there. We have the Marvel Universe over there. Nobody knows why there are two. It's so confusing to people. Again, nobody was saying this. This was not a problem. But for some reason, Marvel got it in their heads it is a problem, and they went to go try and fix it. And they did Secret Wars. The Illuminati had all these different realities that were dying. All the Earths were colliding into each other. They have, all the realities die. Secret Wars happens. A new multiverse is born. Franklin Richards is off spraying new multiverse universes out into the world with his powers that are now gone, I guess. Sure, whatever. I mean, what do we do there? They're still calling it the Earth 616. There's a brief rule at Marvel that said you cannot call it the 616. That rule was broken like 1 month after it was instituted. Some writer did it, and nobody cares. And hopefully, I am told, by the way, that at least the multiple reality multiverse stuff, people at Marvel have gotten over. I should hope so, because their parent company Disney is about to launch, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We had Into the Spider-Verse with different multiverses. Both those movies made a lot of money. So at this point, maybe shut the F up and realize that the audience is fine. You don't need to fix this. But that still leaves us with the other problem, is a problem that the linear verse is, in theory, supposed to solve, which is, how are these characters not aging? Once again, nobody cares. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to say people are aging ultra slow. You don't need to do any of this. You are gifted with the fact that nostalgia is in. People like these different things. Again, you have a world where characters are flying around in the sky on their own power, that they can shoot beams out of their eyes, that they've got, there's all these powers. There are fictional nations. There is not a Livernia in the real world. You can look it up on a map, but it does not exist. Same thing with Slovakia and any other crazy Eastern European country Marvel wants to invent. These places are not real. Over in DC, there is not a Gotham. I can look all around the U.S. map. There is no Gotham. There is no Metropolis. These places are not real places. Therefore, you do not need to explain aging. Again, people are cool. They can understand that places with superpowers, people flying around. Does it make sense that Superman, or does it make sense that Batman was hanging around in the 30s and now it's 2020? He still seems to be about the same age. Sure. Does it make sense that Dick Grayson is like a kid for a while, and then he's grown up and now he's an adult, and he's being drawn in showers with his ass for the ladies, and yet Bruce is not aging? Does that make sense? Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody is hankering for Bruce Wayne to be running around as a 70-year-old man. Unless you want to tell a Dark Knight Returns story where he is running around like that, and then that's fine too. Nobody cares. Absolutely nobody cares. I don't know. I cannot tell you for the life of me why the publishers are obsessed with this idea. At Marvel and DC, I cannot begin to tell you why they get hung up on this, but they do. And, please, if you're a creator, if you're somebody from the publisher, if for whatever reason, if this video could go viral at the publishers, please, I'm begging you, give yourself a break. You don't need to worry about it. Nobody cares. Nobody actually cares about this. Your customers do not care. You are solving a problem nobody at all is asking you to solve. So relax. Enjoy life. Appreciate the fact that your readers are maybe smarter than you give them credit for, that they don't care about how old somebody is and if they're aging in real time or not, and just tell stories. Just tell good stories and don't worry about it. Handcuffs removed. You're good. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. By the way, you might say, and this is a valid point, that stories that do tackle aging, like the Spider-Man life story, those are good too. You're right, they are. That was a good story. Chip Zdarsky, Spider-Man life story, great. I'm not saying you should never show them aging. Please don't represent what I say that way. I'm saying that you don't need to obsess over it. If you want to tell a story where they're aging in real time, go nuts. For your regular universe that's been going on for 60 odd years now, or in the case of DC, almost 90, not quite that, 80 and change years, it's already too late. You didn't have the characters age in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and aughts. It would be weird if suddenly in 2021 you're like, oh crap, we got to age them. That would be weird. So it's already too late for you in the main universe. However, if you would like to tell, Batman life story where he ages in real time, please do. It could be cool. And you know what? the fans are going to consider this an Elseworlds story, and they're going to be good with it. You don't need to identify which multiverse it's in. You don't need to explain if it's in the dark multiverse or light multiverse or the Paisley multiverse. You can put it wherever you want, and people will be okay. They'll figure it out. It will be fine. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the topic. Let me know if you have the mysterious answers to why these people are obsessed with this. I'm all ears. Like and subscribe. Get in touch with me in the description in the bottom of this video, and thanks for listening.